welcome you to this episode of Friday Fandemonium, and I'm really excited about this one. Um, so I grew up in the 90s. I was 10 in 1990. And, right at the start of that, that point in your life where you start noticing boys and, forming these crushes. And if you were like me, you didn't have any like actual real life crushes. So you crushed on celebrities who were in the movies that you watched. Well, there was this phenomenon that happened in the 1990s where movie producers realized that they could make tons of money by creating movies full of all male teenage casts. And every teenage girl, like me, would spend every penny that they had to go see their crushes on the big screen. So, in honor of that wonderful 10-year period where we just had all these wonderful, adorably cast movies, let's take a look back at some of our favorites. Let's start in 1989. Yes, I'm cheating a little bit because I said it was going to start in the 90s, but this one came out a few months prior. In 1989, look at me. I was just this, look at that awkward little 9-year-old face. And, I had my first crush at my elementary school, and that was the year that Dead Poet Society came out. Now, this is still one of my favorite movies, but when I saw it in 1989, I don't think I understood a word of what was being said. But that didn't matter because I had all these adorable older teenage boys to look at, right? Of course, now if you watch it, you see what a powerful movie that is about this teacher, John Keating, who goes into this private school for boys and just flips their world upside down and shows them a completely different side of literature. And it really does teach you just about how beautiful words can be. And so I love that movie. Even now, I still will go back and watch it occasionally. Now, what's funny is it is weird to watch it when you're older and to remember the crush that you had on the kid that was on the screen. Like, oh, it feels a little creepy now because now they're the age of my children, right? But back then, we just thought they were adorable. We had Robert Sean Leonard in that one, and then Ethan Hawke before, he grew up to be the Ethan Hawke that we knew from movies like Before Sunrise. So that was a really great one, right? And then we moved on to one of my favorite books, which was Lord of the Flies. Wow, that book is so powerful and scary and everything. But in 1990, that was when, and here I am. This is me in 1990. That was when Balthazar Getty led the cast of they were young, like 10 or 11, boys who get stranded on a deserted island and they have to fend for themselves, and they create this terrible view of society. Like, scary. If you want to really see something that will scare you out of your wits about human nature, read or watch Lord of the Flies. So we had that one. Then we move on to a little happier one. And let's see, 1991. Here we go. This was me. Oh, don't you love the curls? I had like a jean ensemble on. Yes. Like the feathered bangs where you'd curl and then you'd kind of like brush it. Yeah, that was me. So in 1991, we had one of my favorite movies, and I was obsessed with it. I still know every word to this movie. I could still act out whole scenes of it, and that was Hook. Now, that was a retelling of Peter Pan starring Robin Williams. And I'm referring not really to Robin Williams because he was like an old man at the time, but The Lost Boys was a cast of these adorable kids up to Rufio. If you didn't have a crush on Rufio when you watched that movie, then something was wrong with you. I've talked about this before, and in fact, there are some people who are still angry about that movie because Rufio, if you haven't seen it, gets killed by Captain Hook. And then everybody just seems to forget about him by the end of the movie. And then they're all like, oh, that was a great game. So rest in peace, Rufio, the character. We loved you. Your life, your fictional life ended too soon. Okay, so then I have to give a preface here. I did not watch developmentally appropriate movies when I was growing up. I was the youngest of 6, and I was a pretty good kid, so my parents didn't have to watch, every single thing that I did. But I also think that they were too busy dealing with my older siblings to realize the kind of movies I was watching. Because in 1991, I also watched Boys in the Hood. If you've seen Boys in the Hood, you know it's probably not the best show to watch as an 11-year-old. But that was, a look into, I think it was Compton, California, and just like the gang life that was happening there. And it was our first look at Cuba Gooding Jr. Ice Cube starred in it. Morris Chestnut, bless his heart, Ricky. If you've seen that movie, it is one of the most heartbreaking scenes I have ever seen on film. But it definitely, did give us some, cute guys to look at on the screen. And especially in a time when movies were not all that diverse, it was nice to see somebody other than just an all-white cast, which is what most of these movies had in common, right? Okay, moving on. This is not a well-known movie. In 1991, again, we're going to revisit an all-boys private school. And that was like where all the movies were made. I don't know. And it was called Toy Soldiers. Has anybody seen Toy Soldiers? It's fantastic. And Sean Astin is in it. Louis Gossett Jr. is also in it. He's like the principal of the school, I think. And it's about this group of boys who are like the children of high up, like political high ups in our country. And a group of terrorists comes over, takes over this school, and it's up to the boys to take down the terrorists. It is fabulous. And Sean Astin, that was like right at the peak of his like cute boy period, He was like 16 or 17 in that movie. It was excellent. It also had Will Wheaton in it, which he was as well. So great movie. Okay, let's go back to my pictures. 1992. I have a love-hate relationship with this movie. And there's me playing basketball in 1992. Newsies. I have to be careful with my words on this one because you all loved the movie Newsies. I did not. I hate to say it. I didn't like the romance in it. I'm not the biggest fan of Christian Bale. So he was not my favorite Jack Kelly, but I liked the ideas of these boys, who were my age taking on, people like Joseph Pulitzer and fighting for human rights and fair wages and fair working conditions. And so I liked the idea of it, but it wasn't my favorite movie. And I only watched it once, and then I swore I was never going to watch it again, right? Well, then Newsies on Broadway came out. And if you follow me, you know that I am absolutely obsessed with Newsies on Broadway. I have seen the recording of it. It's on Disney Plus, so if you have that, go watch it. It changed up the story a little bit. It added Catherine Plummer, and she is this like tough girl journalist who goes out there and she's going to get the story. And then you find out she's actually the daughter of Joseph Pulitzer, and Jeremy Jordan plays Jack Kelly. And again, if you follow me, you know I love everything about Jeremy Jordan. So yes, the Broadway play is way better than the movie that came out. And Michelle, I'm so glad somebody else has seen Toy Soldiers. I told my husband I'm going to make him watch it because it's still a fantastic movie in my mind. Stephanie, she liked Newsies and she loved Christian Bale. Yeah, it's just hard when you have Christian Bale and then Jeremy Jordan. I mean, Come on, there's no comparison. Christian Bale can play all of his weird characters that he's played ever since. But let's just let Jack Kelly remain in our minds as Jeremy Jordan. So moving on. Now, at the same time that you guys were all talking about Newsies, I was a fanatic for School Ties. Anybody remember the movie School Ties? I hope so, because Brendan Fraser, again, we are at an all boys, like 1950s set private school, and Brendan Fraser he is a transfer, and he's Jewish into this all Christian school, and there's a lot of there was a lot of prejudice against people who were Jewish at the time, and so he has to like hide his faith, and and then when it all comes out, he gets mocked and teased and like really like just treated horribly. But if you're just going into it as a 12-year-old and that kind of stuff just goes right over your head, which it did for me at that age, you just see Brendan Fraser and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and my love, Chris O'Donnell. Boy, I loved him. I talked about him last time when we were talking about Fried Green Tomatoes and my love for Mary Stuart Masterson, how we had to watch Chris O'Donnell get killed by a train at the beginning of that movie. Luckily, he survives in School Ties. He's not exactly the most stand-up guy in that movie, but, it was still worth watching. And then if you loved Brendan Fraser like I did, that was a great movie to watch. So notice I did not mention Encino Man, because it only had 3 male characters really at the front of that movie. But I did love Encino Man. I mean, come on. So fun. Such a fun movie. Okay. Now, and this is the picture. This is me. Look at my elbows and my knees in 1992. Look at that. And my skin. People used to ask me at the time if I was sick or if I wasn't feeling well, because that's how pale my skin was. Don't you love that? Oh, Stephanie loved School Ties. Yes. Oh, there were so many. Now we're going to skip a little bit of time here. And now maybe there were some between 1993 and 1996, but I couldn't think of any. So let me know if I missed any. Okay. White Squall. Anybody remember White Squall? It was about a group of teenage boys who were going on this adventure on a sailboat, I think. Yeah. And Jeff Bridges was like their captain. And they get stuck in this horrible storm. And although the movie itself was, fairly entertaining, when the storm hits and that white squall, like the big wall of water, I mean, it's horrible. Like, you've spent the entire movie forming crushes on these boys, and then you watch half of them drown. It was terrible. Oh, there are so many times, and if you've seen this, you will remember this. There are so many times where I think, 1, 2, 3, wake up. 1, 2, 3, wake up. And if you know what I'm talking about, you probably are getting tears in your eyes just remembering that line. Oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking. And then, let me find my 1996 picture. Look at me, braces and all. I had the Rachel haircut, complete with bangs. Yes, leaning on a ladder like they used to do in the school pictures. And it cracks me up about this is my dad hated that dress because of how short it was on me. I was not a rebel, but I really did love that dress. Okay, and then our last movie, because we were starting to leave the beauty of the teenage all-male, cast, and we were starting to maybe, I don't know, maybe put women on the screen a little bit more, because there certainly was a period of time where that was not the focus, right? But the last one is a more serious one, and it was Saving Private Ryan. So here is me in 1998. This might have been 1997. Look, I had just gotten my braces off, and it was Halloween, and I was like, I'm so pretty. I'm going to dress like Barbie. Because, if you had braces and then you got them off, you thought you were everything, right? So that was me dressed as Barbie. And then this was my senior picture. So me pretending to be 50 years old in that look. Like I look older in that than I do now because I don't know why was that the style? I don't know. I used to wear like business suits to school because of the movie Clueless. Like, I'd look all formal and everything. But Saving Private Ryan was another one of those where you had the all male cast led by Tom Hanks. And obviously Matt Damon was the actual, Private Ryan, and all these guys. What was the guy? Ed Burns. Do you guys remember Ed Burns? He hasn't been around for a while, but he was in that movie, and he was another one of my '90s crushes. I had a lot, of '90s crushes, and I think it's because if you saw my video last night with Christiane Hunter, we were talking about romance and myths, and specifically with Valentine's Day, I was admitting that I did not have any like boyfriends in high school. I got by having crushes on movie characters. So, and movie stars. So, you can say whatever you want about me. I was a little crazy. I can admit that. I lived in a fantasy world, which is probably why I'm a romance writer right now. So, thank you guys for hanging out with me while we did our Friday Fandemonium. Thank you for enjoying your lunch while sitting here and talking with me. If you come back and watch this later, please let me know which of those movies you loved. If you were like me and you just had uh, you know, such a fan moment over those all male ensemble casts from the early 90s, the mid 90s. Let me know which of those you liked most or which ones you did not like as much, and if I missed any, because if I missed any, I certainly have to go back and watch them because I have nothing better to do, I guess. It's so weird though, like when you go back and watch somebody you had a crush on, like back then, and now, a little creepy. But anyway, now that I've said way more than I planned to say, thank you guys for joining me for this Friday Fandemonium, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.